What's up, everybody? Like clockwork, we are back. Smoking Word, always brought to you by CasaDeRock.com. You know the deal. Support the movement and tune in every Wednesday on Patreon.com/The Smoking Word for the Hard Corner and get all your 411 on the weekly underground movement. So, big shout out to Maxwell Kendrick and Vanessa Dos Santos for holding me down, and shout out to my whole Patreon family. Anyway, this week, one of my favorite bands, OG in the game. Let's get it in for Mike Judge. Let's set this shit off.
Welcome to the Smoking Word. Welcome to the Smoking Word.
Yeah, you hear me? You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Yeah, well, finally, welcome to the motherfucking Smoking Word. Now, that's off the top is pretty funny to me. The Smoking Word podcast. Well, one of the guys I've been waiting for, one of my straight edge fucking warriors, the one and only Mr. Mikey Judge. I'm happy to finally get you on here, brother.
I've been waiting, bro.
You know, you know what it was? They put you through the podcast meat grinder. So I was like, let me wait till it, you get a little bit dilutes a little bit, and then I'll come grab you up.
Yeah.
How's everything, dude?
It's good, dude. Good.
Working?
Yeah, man. I'm up in Albany now, working at Merch now. So.
Are you living up there? Yeah, you living up there, right? But
yeah.
Weren't you living like in Jersey for a minute or for a while, right?
Yeah, I was there pretty much my whole life. And then when everything went to shit, I lost my job and everything else, and eventually lost my condo and shit. And we were just bumming around in the woods of Jersey, and then Steve and Kate invited me up here to work.
Yeah, I remember. I know kind of when that was kind of going on, because I was kind of like in touch with everybody who was kind of figuring out the next move and all that shit. What I was wondering is, so you were always a Jersey guy, right? That's where you were born and all that. I know you. Oh yeah. You were near the tri-state.
Yeah.
You know.
I was in Tuaco, Montville area, so it's like 20 minutes away from the GW.
Yeah.
So we were close. We were in the woods, but we had access.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how that works. That's why it's definitely one of the things why New York hardcore was special, because you had those elements for a big city that was built around, you always saw the squats and the rats and the Mohawks, but yet a lot of those elements were woods. People like you and people that came from the outskirts that just happen to like to wild out in the gutter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we started going. We were like kids, 13, 14 years old. And we were just having a fucking hell of a time down the Lower East Side. We were going crazy. Yeah. But that's like when the scene was like changing over. There was still like the, punk rockers, Max's Kansas City days. Yeah. Found out we're from Jersey, didn't like us. So like, what are you doing here?
Gotcha.
It wasn't until we hooked up with like the Astoria guys, who were like kind of like, not a suburb, but
yeah,
more in line with what we were doing. You're like Dito and those guys.
Yeah. And it's funny because that's kind of with us what it was. It was, obviously, I'm glad that we came up in the time that I came up, which was later than you guys, exactly, not the Maxes. You're after the Maxes, and I'm like 88 later, way later. But I was glad that I still knew where the roots came from. But I didn't come from that punk rock shit, that part. And I don't say that punk rock shit in a fucked up way, but I wasn't my punk rock love for punk rock is like on one hand. And even them, it was like Discharge, who they're like a hardcore band. They invented one of the inventors, but GBH, and maybe two others. But in reality, I loved what was regurgitated from all those influences, and that I got to catch, which was the bands like you guys, the Sick of It Alls, the Rest in Pieces, the Raw Deal, which is my favorite band ever. you know, and
Right.
but it's funny that you say that because I thought you guys Judge sounded nothing like that punk rock part, which was a big plus for me.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't much punk rock. I didn't have much to do with punk rock at all. I mean, I
Oh,
got into it. I don't know. I got into like that early punk rock shit just because where I was living, there was only like a couple people, and I was already an outcast because I grew up like fucking middle of the woods farm boy.
yeah.
So I didn't get along with anybody where I was living, and I was just looking for somebody to click with. Once I got into high school, came across these, you know, 4 or 5 punk rock kids, and just started hanging out with them.
Yeah. And it's like, it's funny because, of course, we all know, like, early on, you kind of, you have your go-to, like, you almost, I don't want to say go-tos, but, like, you got to kind of have to like, or at least, have it in your arsenal when you're coming up. Like, so there was a handful of punk rock, but, I gave it a try. But
Yeah.
it was always like, I was like, fuck that. You kidding me? AF is doing that there. The Cro-Mags are doing that there. And Raw Deal's doing that there. Fuck that shit. I go, I
Yeah.
want that. Like.
Yeah, that's because I was listening to like all that shit early on, like Sex Pistols, Clash, and shit.
Mhm.
But I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. It had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't until like I went to my first couple big shows, like Urban Plaza shows with like Kraut and shit,
Uh-huh.
where I was like, wow, this is fucking awesome. And then finally went to my first CB's matinee where I seen Agnostic, and I was like, whoa,
Game
shit,
changer.
I can do that too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was it. That was the game changer right there.
Let me ask you something from being a guy from back then. And it's crazy because you were a little kid back then. So, on top of you just being around back then and still around now, it's already a plus. And on top of that, you were one of the little kids, which was
Yeah.
also a handful. They were, but there was a handful of real little kids. If it was you or, Harley or Freddie, that come in
Freddie, yeah.
little-ish, real small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're all kids, but like young kids,
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, because I asked Stigma this question. Because I asked Stigma once, I go, who was the band back in the day that had a chance to like take, take the underground to that next level, like in the early 80s? And he looked at me and he told me Kraut. And I was saying, I could see it because I know they had the All Twisted video. My brother used to check this out. I was never into it because I was already kind of more into, I wanted a little bit more guerrilla shit. But what was it about them back then that stuck out, let's say, to compare it to, let's say, the Ramones or the Sex Pistols or whoever else was, around back then in that world?
I just think with Kraut, like I remember the first time I seen Kraut was me and this dude. We went to like I don't even remember what park it was. It might even been Central Park. I'm not sure. There's like some Rock Against Reagan or some shit.
Central Park. I heard about that. I think it's Central Park, and I heard about it. But all right, now go ahead.
We sat there all day. We were just little kids. We had no fucking clue of how to like figure out when bands are going to play. So we sat through so many fucking crazy fucking bands. And then finally Kraut comes on, and they only played like a short amount of time, but it was fucking great. So I was like, that's a fucking awesome band. And then not too long after that, these older kids from town were going to go see Kraut at Urban Plaza. And that was like my first official show
at a place, yeah.
And plus it was Urban Plaza. Like the sound system was amazing. And fucking Kraut, they were just like, nobody sounded like that. They were just like next level.
Yeah, everybody says that, and then and it's funny because and Matt Cool, what's the singer's name? Nice guy, I met him, all those guys. Yeah, they great, nice, real nice dude, and I always heard the name, and always, but I was again, it wasn't my era, but I always was like, yo, Kraut was always talked about in a certain way, which I was always curious about that because Stigma told me the same. He was like, they the ones who had a chance because they had the full package, I guess, at the time. I guess they were also like, they had a look, they had a sound, they were good, they were street, they were this, they were that. I guess, they had the...
Fucking Doug, man. Doug was an amazing guitar player.
Yeah, killers. That's for sure. Now, let me ask you this because I never seen them. on stage, were they all like a tight band, like, you
Fuck
know, were
yeah.
they killers and shit? Oh,
Fuck yeah. I mean, there were a bunch of bands that were good. Kraut was like at the top. Another band that sounded fucking amazing live was The Abused. Just
all right.
like they just seemed like I don't know. I don't know if it was equipment or what, but they
Yeah.
just sounded so much better than all the rest of us.
Equipment too, but you know what it is? No, there's a, you know what it is. Even me coming up, that the you know the metal guys were always the technical guys, or whoever was the not the underground dudes. So it was kind of taboo to be like, I want to do what they're doing. So
Yeah.
you know, everybody tried to dumb down shit, but there was people like that I think were like, fuck it, let me reach out, and which I'm glad, because if it wasn't for me, it wasn't crowd, but if it wasn't for best wishes and leeway, I was like, finally, we could come out with full stacks. Even though I didn't have a band with 2 guitars or whatever, I was like, full stacks. Yeah, we, you know, come out with amps like the metal dudes got. And my whole shit was, even my love for metal was, you know, I love Slayer, Celtic Frost, Black Sabbath, you know, a handful. But I was like, yo, you know, hardcore bands need to sound better. They need to sound big. You know, fuck that. You know, we could do it like the metal guys, you know. So I always rooted for the metal geeks sneaking in hardcore, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt.
And fucking it definitely leveled the playing field. But also I know, so look at, I know you coming up, obviously everybody knows you, you know, one of the straight edge fucking barbarians. That I bet you never been called a straight edge barbarian though.
Never.
First time here, I gave it to you. You're welcome. You can have it. New shirt, the straight edge barbarian, motherfucker. But anyway, I know you came up, and I know you had, you know, from hearing on the other podcast, I know like a lot of kids, and not every kid in Argo, but a lot, you know, a lot of drugs in the house and people, and just being around, which either brings you to that life or does the opposite.
Yeah.
You know, like with yourself. What was it that didn't let you go that way, being that close? Because it's a fine line, you know that, you know, and maybe you had a minute where you were like, you know, as a kid too, that young, fuck, I would have done anything almost, you know?
Yeah. Well, the the painful truth of it all is the way I grew up, you know, my mom died like super early because of drugs. My father really didn't want to have a kid around, so he just kept pawning me off to people. Yeah. So, you know, my father was from the city, Manhattan, moved to West New York, right across the river. And because he was like, he used to race pigeons in the city. You know, it's like a fucking old school Sicilian dude.
Oh, I know. Stigma flies pigeons, yeah.
So he would race pigeons, and he kept taking them further out west to race them back to the city. And eventually he found where he built a house in Mobville. But the rest of our family was still in like West New York. So when my mom died and my dad was like, work all day, wanted to go out at night, didn't want to kid around. He'd hand me off to my cousins. My cousins were fucking just junkies.
Yeah. Like
every morning, wake up, go with my cousin to a fucking methadone clinic, then go cop drugs. You know, I'd be in the back seat while eventually they taught me how to cook the fucking dope for them.
Yeah.
Many nights I sat into a fucking movie theater in the Bronx while they're doing dope, and I'm sitting in a couple rows in front of them.
Yeah.
It was just a mess.
Yeah.
Fucking hated them.
Yeah, I don't believe.
I fucking hated him, and eventually my father bought a bar, so he was never around, and it you know, I was all fucked up myself, drinking and shit. And
were you just drinking or anything else? Just a regular, like drinking or smoking a little or whatever, or nothing?
I wish I was just smoking. My cousins were like skin popping me with fucking dope.
Oh.
You know, so I was fucked up. Right? I knew too much. By the time I got into school, I was like a wreck.
Yeah.
And it was just everything was falling apart. I had no social skills, like nothing. I hung out with myself in the woods.
Yeah.
And I was just a freak. And then eventually, when I did find the New York scene, I was still doing the same thing. We would just go and fucking drink and get loaded and go into the show and fucking have a good time, sorta. Until one night, the UK subs were in town. They were playing like a Wednesday night. No one wanted to go. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going. So I went by myself, hopped on the bus, Port Authority.
How old are you now?
Like 14.
See, those were the days when, exactly, I would do shit like that too. That was the age. Now, I look at my son, 13. I'm like, when he goes to the corner store, I'm like, where you going? FaceTime me. I'm like, fuck, I'm such a fucking pussy. But anyway.
Well, so I go and I do the usual thing. I got like a bottle of like whatever. I don't even fucking know. Got totally fucking loaded. Caught a fucking beating really fucking bad. I don't know what I did. I'm sure I deserved it. Caught it really bad. To the point where this dude, Eric Casanova, I remember him like getting me up and just being like, dude, what up? Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, what time is it? I was like, I got to get the 1 o'clock bus home. And it was past 1 o'clock, so I missed my bus home. Next bus is at like 5:30 in the morning. I got school the next day. My dad's rules were he didn't give a fuck what I did. Just make it to school so nobody calls the home and never bring the cops to the house. Those were my only rules. So I was like, I got to get to school. So I went to Port Authority. I fucking fell asleep on the fucking benches. Cops came, woke me up. They thought I was a runaway. I tried to get away from them by going into the bathroom, making pretend I had to take a leak. Fucking cop comes in. He's telling me to fucking wherever I'm from, go back there. Don't come back here. Takes the back of my head and pushes it against the wall because I was ignoring him. And when I finally get on the bus, I'm like riding home to the bus, and I know there's like all like blood all over my face. I'm trying to scratch off the dried shit so I can go to school. And it all fell into place on that ride home. I was like, I got into a fight with this fucking big motherfucker who was like a man.
Yeah.
And I'm alive. This fucking cops fucked with me. I'm alive. And when I got off in town, all the jocks who I used to be afraid of, they didn't look big to me anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck all these guys. Nothing can kill me. I'm fucking bulletproof.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was like, the reason I caught that beating is because I was loaded. And I just stopped.
Now, okay, so that was the reason. Now, did you have straight edge in your projective or whatever the word is in your fucking,
At that time, no.
Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't even.
I didn't hear. It was like a little bit.
Just around.
I don't know if I heard Minor Threat yet or not. We
Okay.
had one of the older guys in town. His girlfriend was all about like pen pal and shit. She was the first one to bring all the Discord records in. So maybe I heard the song straight edge, but it didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, gotcha.
I was never a Minor Threat guy to begin with.
Yeah, that was my next question. Because I always felt that about you guys. Not that you weren't, but for some reason I felt like I was like, obviously, the 101s we all got. I like Minor Threat. But to say I like 4 or 5 songs, I don't call myself a fan like that. Those 4 or 5 songs I love. And, salute them, but I like Judge.
I mean, I seen Minor Threat, but I've seen all the matinees. It's not like, oh my God, I got to go see Minor Threat.
So let me ask
I
you,
would have been there regardless.
Did you were able to see Minor Threat back then?
Yeah, I seen 3 or 4 times.
I like that face you made, because every other kid would have made a face like they were busting a nut in their pants. You were like, yeah, I got to see him,
I mean, he turned out to be a dick. The dude's
okay, you know what?
Turned into be a dickhead.
Talk that motherfucking shit, and I'll tell you why. I'm glad you said, because I didn't want to say that to be a dick, but I'm glad you said something, because recently I met him, and there was some really weird interaction when I was coming up. Really cool 101. It was pretty funny. I kind of even laid it on a little thicker to be. I said, let me get the pics. I was saying, long story short. And you tell me, because I admit I wasn't around back then, I said, oh, I play in a band, which I don't expect him to know Madball. That's not my point. I said, I play in a hardcore band named Madball. He's standing with his arms crossed. And I go, oh, I'm the singer of my band is Roger from Agnostic Front's little brother. And he's like, Agnostic Front. And he looked at me like, who are them? And I looked and I was like, all right, cool. I told my man, take a picture. Took a picture. I looked at him when we left. I was like, and then when I talked to Toby not too long after, and he could tell you what was the word I used, but I thought it was corny. But I'm glad you said that because I was like, I'm more because I salute the OGs. I know where we come from, and hey, and also with a guy like that who doesn't come around like that, isn't I was more psyched that he was in South Florida because I'm in South Florida now, and the people that brought him out are good people. The hardcore kids doing it, tattoo shops, and they bring in the culture, the real shit, the real, and I was happy for it. I go, wow, this doesn't even happen in New York, that, like, a meet and greet kind of thing with Ian and blah blah blah. I was like, it was a cool thing. That was a little bit of a bum out, even though I wasn't expecting to be like blown away, but. It's funny you say that anyway.
I mean, I never met him when I was in when he was in Minor Threat, but his Fugazi days, they played Connecticut like the Anthrax, and I had this buddy, right? He was just a little kid when I met him. The bus stop from New York was on this highway, Route 46, right? Right on the corner was this arcade I used to hang out at, Game Town. He was a little kid. Every once in a while, the owner would let him work behind the counter. So when I had just recorded the Judge 7-inch, I had like a copy of the demo, and it was all mixed down. It was like, this is what was going to come out. Stopped in the arcade, and I see he was like wearing a Megadeth shirt, right? So I'm just like, you like heavy music? Here, this is my band. We're called Judge. Yeah. And I gave it to him. Ever since then, he was like, we've been brothers, And he was little at the time, so he's growing up. He grows up into like hanging out in New York and shit. And even when I stopped hanging out, he was still hanging out, and he would like tell me what's going on. He's like best friends with Tavi, so he's like, so and so's doing this, so and so's doing that. So even though I wasn't hanging out, I knew what everybody was doing. I was hearing all this shit. But anyway, before that happened, he goes, he wants to go see fucking Fugazi. Oh, I never got to see Minor Threat. I got to at least see Fugazi. I'm like, you didn't miss nothing, bro. Come on. But anyway, so I take him to fucking Connecticut, and he's all amped. Fugazi's playing, and he's young, and he wants to dance. And these motherfuckers stop the show, single him out, point him out, ridicule him, and I was standing there, I was like, yeah. Part of me just wants to fucking break this fucking guy's jaw for doing this to my fucking friend. Yeah. He's just a kid.
I know.
The kid, yesterday the kid was like pleading with me to come see you.
I know. Insane.
And you treat him like this. Like I was so fucking, I was over it. Then something else happened, I'm not going to say later on. With my old brother Al Brown, who's now gone, so I'm not going to say anything.
Got you.
But like the look on Al Brown's face when this happened was like he was hurt, and I was like, this guy, like, how many passes does this guy get?
Yeah, well, it's funny. There's a story I tell. I never told it on the podcast, but fucking Mike Judge is on, and you opened that floodgate. I'm glad you did, because that way I don't look guilty. You could do it because I'm on and people automatically assume, because I always got theories with this. The straight edge. I was at all the straight edge shows. If it was hardcore and it was good, I was there. I didn't give a fuck. I never cared what was on the menu. This is what I always say. I never care what was on the menu. You know what I mean? But funny story, I'll say it. I'll drop it for the fucking everybody here since we're dropping that shit. So Fugazi's playing on the West Side. I forgot the name of the club. It's actually the club where Minus got stabbed, and they had the Amnesty shows. Man, I forgot the name. Nice club on the West Side. Fugazi's playing. So we go to hang out. At one point, he fucking stops the show because they're body surfing. He's like, this ain't a hardcore fucking show. I did and like, doing his bitter. I don't know what. I don't want to even say bitter because the place was packed. I don't know why you bitter. Half the people there went because also the love of Minor Threat. Anyway, me and my boy are outside. We're just waiting, let the show go out to hang out. And outside the entrance, there was a double door that's locked, right? I don't know what was behind it, but we're leaning up against it with our foot on it. When you're leaning up against the wall, and I'm kind of like kicking it with the foot that's against the wall, and the door swings open. The door swings open. My boy goes, yo, check this out. And it's all switches. We look at each other and we hit every switch. Listen, the whole club goes black. We shut down the show. The whole show. They come running out. Yo, there's a blackout. They see the doors open. We're like, we don't know. We're waiting for our friends. We shut down the whole show. It was all the power for the whole club. So Fugazi had a little. Sorry, Fugazi. Fugazi. Yeah. But so you had the now. Okay, so you have that whole. Now you're on this shit like, this drug shit got me on some bitter against drug shit or just loser shit or whatever you want to call it, like meathead loser shit. I'm on this shit. Now you're into hardcore. Now you're like, when you start the band, all right, you started first, you were playing with Youth. Did you play with Youth Today or something? Right? You were playing with some other people before the band, correct?
Yeah, my first band was Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah, the OG Death Before Dishonor. Yeah, what with Mark Supertouch, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Mark.
So before Mark, I was a singer for Death Before Dishonor.
All right.
And I remember
let him know before Mark. Shout out to him before Mark. All right.
We were hanging out with Mark because we were friends with like Keith and Keith Calls for Alarm and those guys. Yeah. Big Randy from Nutley. We were hanging out with those guys, and Mark was our age, so we were tight. And we had met Roger and Vinny. Vinny was like, he just took us under his wing. He was like, we got to get you. The fucking name of the band at first was called Future Confusion. Right?
That ain't bad. That's pretty good. That ain't bad.
Whatever it was. Vinny didn't like it. Vinny was like, you guys are the new hard. We gotta get you a better name, And
the new hard, that's hard. So hearing it from him, I would have been gassed up, ready to kill people.
Yeah, he was like, you need a drummer. So he's like, I'll get you a drummer. So he got us Billy Psycho. I don't know if you remember.
I remembered him.
So he got us Billy Psycho, and he liked us because we were different, right? We were coming from New Jersey, so we came in. We had our heads shaved. We wore sneakers because that's just what we wore at home. Yeah. When the jocks were fucking chasing you, you better have sneakers on. Yeah. And you shaved your head because you didn't want them grabbing your hair when you're scrapping. Yeah. And so he loved us, and he was like, "I'm going to do this. We got to change your name. Going to get you a drummer." He got us Billy. I don't even remember how we came up with Death Before Dishonor, but we decided to call it Death Before Dishonor, and like, so Agnostic was like putting us on all their bills. We were opening up for Agnostic wherever they played in the city. Yeah. And so I think we played A7 once with that lineup, and then we're going to play A7 again, and it was getting to be our time to play. And we couldn't find Billy, so we go outside, and we're like, "Hey, has anybody seen Billy?" I'm like, I think he went in the park. So we walk into Tompkins Square, right, and we're looking for him, and we see him with this chick on a bench. It's dark. Whatever he was doing. But I remember we walked out. It was me and Mark Ryan. We walked out of the park, and we're like, "This ain't gonna work, man."
Yeah, we don't know.
Gonna work. So I was like, you know what? I'll fucking learn how to play drums. You sing, and that's what became Death Before Dishonor that played for all those years, and then eventually turned into Supertouch. So I was with that band first, changed the name to Supertouch, and then that's when they asked me to join Youth of Today.
That's when you did that Youth of Today run that burnt you, that fucking that led you into oblivion for a while.
Well, I mean, we played a lot. But we would go like out to the West Coast and take 2 weeks to play like a show.
No, I know. Back then it was rough.
It was rough, man. And
I gotta say this. I always heard this from, if it was Europe or the States, it was always Youth of Today or one of the straight edge, if it was a guerrilla business, but a lot of Youth of Today breaking those early grounds of like going out west, going to Europe and doing the long tours and like, basically being guinea pigs for a lot of us. And I always heard about the early tours was especially Youth of Today doing, some of those runs that you did. I remember hearing about them as a kid.
Yeah, like that Breakdown the Walls tour was just seemed to go on forever, and all this just bad shit kept, like, our van got broken into, all our equipment got stolen, all my clothes got stolen. We just keep marching on. Our van breaks down in Florida. We get jobs working in a fucking junkyard to pay for the parts. Just keep marching on. It was it was hell. And we were still catching so much shit too, like all like the fucking Max and rock and roll people like saying shit, and I was just like, that band was like positive this, positive that, but I didn't come from that. I was like, these dudes deserve it. These dudes deserve to get smacked. Oh, positive, PMA. Everybody, like, they're PMA, and I was always FAB.
Yeah.
Positive mental attitude, fucked at birth. That's
me.
And I just wanted to get back at these motherfuckers. And so by the time that's how Judge came about, I was like sleeping in the van to guard it while it was being worked on, and I was just like, I just want to start my own band, say my own shit.
Yeah, more of a payback, fucking kind of. Yeah. Instead of turning the other cheek, it's more like snuff you in the other cheek,
Yeah, I just want to fucking get. I had a bunch of shit I want to get off my chest. Like, the whole Judge thing wasn't even supposed to be a band. It was just supposed to be a record that came out in Schism Fanzine. It was just me and Purcell.
Yeah,
just gonna say a bunch of shit and close the book on it.
Now, when you did that record, now again, you see, for me, like, I had my own little issues later on with the straight edge thing, where it became, it's funny because we being the meathead side of it, but everybody was a meathead back then. So that's the hard part for me, because I was like, I remember going to a show and somebody saying way later on, oh, we're going to a straight edge show, and I was like, what do you mean a straight edge show? Because I'd go to a hardcore show and there was a straight edge band, an oi band. You remember how it was back then? It was whatever. And then I remember they were like, oh, I'm going to a youth crew show. Now, I don't know if they had them before that, but I had never heard that when I was a kid. I was like, because I seen Youth of Today instead. I would go to, if it was a hardcore show, I was there. I didn't give a fuck. I was like, yo, I'm there. And then when I heard that, I was like, and then I remember later with Madball, somebody telling me, oh, you play tough guy hardcore. And I'm like, it's all tough guy hardcore. Like, it's all, it's hardcore. It's the hard cousin of punk rock. And, I'm like, do I have to give you, anyway, when early on there, on that, was it a conscious effort to be like, we're going to put out a more metallic record? Because you were saying you're more rock than punk rock. And the other guys, Youth of Today was known for still having a heavy old school punk rock feel to them in a way. Like, they weren't swaggy. They were swaggy in dress and, and style that way. But the music was them doing an older style. That's what I always took. I was like, man, they do the old style with swag.
Well, that's the reason I love them so much and joined them, because at the time, like, at the end of Death Before Dishonor, at one point, everything was like really turning metal. So it was like Death Before Dishonor was even doing like a Iron Maiden cover, it was like, it's getting crazy with it. And then, we kind of break up and shit. And then Mark Ryan's like, hey man, there's this new band and they play like old school hardcore. Let's go check them out. And that was Youth of Today. So it was great. But when it came time to do Judge, I was like living in Williamsburg at the Schism House. And like Al Brown and Purcell, they would go into the city to go to work and shit. And I would just sit there like with a bass trying to write songs for this fucking thing. And so I had their 2 record collections, right? These immense record collections. And so I just fucking nonstop listened to like the Last Rites demo and like the first 6 Black Sabbath records, up to Sabotage. I draw the line of Sabotage.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted Last Rites, SSD Control, and Black Sabbath Volume 4 come together and try. But I didn't know how to play guitar or anything. I was just fumble around the bass, listening to music, and then Purcell would come on and go like, "Hey man, what does this sound like?" And he'd like work it out, and that's how that first record got done.
Yeah, like when I remember that record came out. Not that I wanted to hate it, but I was like, oh, but let's see what this is about. Like let's see. And then I was like, holy fuck. I was like, damn, like it was, you know what it was? It was the first hard straight edge record, period. And when I mean hard, we all know that, hard, Break Down the Walls, one of the hardest straight. I love that song. Yeah. But we're talking what we know is hard. I was like, this is like the next version of you guys is Earth Crisis later, but I've taken the hard and a message to the next motherfucking level. That's crazy. Let me ask you this about you, because this is something that I'm learning and I didn't know, and I wasn't sure. Were you vegan and into that whole part also early on, or did that come later? Vegetarianism or that?
When I was in Youth of Today, it was like
you were forced to be straight edge. Yeah, I mean, vegan of vegetarian.
We didn't have money to buy our own food.
Yeah, so that's
it was
different.
Just like you made like $5 a day band fund or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was easier just to put it together and just make one bulk meal. Yeah. I mean, we were barely making gas money to get from place to place. So so that's and I stuck with that for a while, and then I switched and then went back and switched and went back. I never was vegan, but
gotcha. But you were vegetarian, gotcha. Yeah, because people also forget that angle. That's an angle that came from the 80s, where not everybody was straight edge, got into it just for the movement, for the animal liberation part of it. Which is I back it. I'm back anything. I back anything that people get passionate about and it's not fucking up my movement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't go for it. Go nuts. You know what I mean? But I was like, people forget that some people are like I also had met the reverse, which bugged me out. I remember being in Salt Lake City, and this was many years ago, and I ran out of weed. And I'm a weed smoker. Everybody knows that. But I'm like, and I'm saying to myself, okay, I'm in straight edge heaven. This is where all the straight edge people die and go. They go to Salt Lake City. I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? And I go, vegan. I'm hearing vegan now. At the time, I automatically assume vegan, straight edge, all in one barrel. And I get out the van to be an asshole, and I just go, who got weed? To be a dick, just yell it. And a guy. He's standing kind of literally like in an alleyway. It's so funny. I see this white kid, like he looked, very hardcore down. He said, "Yo, you want some? You need some weed? I got some." I was like, "Oh shit!" And I go right away excited. I go, "Yo, man, cool." I go, "Wow, I'm bugging out." I'm in Salt Lake City, and it's vegan. Everybody. He's like, "Yeah, I'm vegan," and I'm like, "Wait." I go, "Wait a minute." He goes, "Yeah, but I'm not straight edge. I just don't eat no animals or whatever." I was like, "But ain't vegan straight edge?" And I go, I learned something that moment. I was like, I always threw it all in the goody two-shoe pile. You know what I mean? Like all right, but no, but I back that shit, but I'm saying that's bugged out because nowadays it kind of goes more in hand. Like everybody that's straight edge now, well, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot. If they do say the word straight edge, they're usually on top of that vegetarian and whatever. So
yeah,
it's pretty bugged out. And then let me ask you this with the 7-inch. Now, those songs, who wrote those songs? The Warrior song. Let me tell you, because that was one of the first bass lines I fucked with. The do 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 do.
Warriors was a cover by Blitz.
I know that's the cover, but I mean, the 7-inch. Who was on?
Yeah, I wrote all those songs.
Oh, those were used fully stuff. And on the album, how much? Who was? That was where you had a lot of writing on that. You, Porcell. Who was the riff guy on that record?
I had some of them, and then Purcell had the majority.
Mm-hmm.
Once I had told him, showed him all these songs, and we recorded it, and then we wanted to make a full band. Then he started writing.
Got you.
And I was like, we never had a conversation where like, dude, don't write no Youth of Today riffs. It's not about that.
Yeah.
He was just coming out with these fucking heavier shit.
Yeah.
So
to me, it was like that was Best Wishes the straight edge version. You know, like, oh man, and production wise, you motherfuckers came off. You know, you got, you know, I heard you talk about it before, but I want to hit that again. How many? Because that's again one. It's a classic studio. We never got to go there, you know. But you know, it was always a Normandy sound. Everybody was Normandy, all that. How was that with you? Like, was it like? Do you remember? Like, what did it matter to you as a kid? Like, we're gonna go do this at Normandy because as a kid, even before I was in a band that did anything, I knew about the studio, and I was like, whoa, that's where the big dogs go.
Yeah,
you know.
My thing was, we recorded a 7-inch at Dom Fury, and I loved it. Then we recorded a version of the 12-inch at Chung King, and it sucked. And I had a miserable time, and it sucked. And then, you know, those guys were like, we're gonna go to Chung King. It's gonna be awesome. Danzig's there. This, that, all this other shit, and it sucked. So then when they were like, we're gonna go to Normandy, this, that, and the other thing about. I was like, yeah, you know, you sold me this fucking bill of goods before with fucking Chung King. So I wanted to go back to Don because I knew Don, and Don knew that I was like this fucked up like introvert, so I could turn off all the fucking lights when I had to do vocals and shit.
Yeah.
And so they want to do Normandy. Revelation was okay with it and shit. And then they go, and the first thing I hear is that our bass player, Jimmy, at the time, you know, he was living at the Buddhist temple off Canal Street. So it was getting harder and harder to get him to come out for shows. They had one phone downstairs.
You had to hit a gong, right? You had to hit the gong.
You had to call, hope a guy spoke English, and then hope that guy would go find Jimmy for you.
Wow.
So it was getting harder and harder. Sometimes we just go there. Eventually, it's getting time to record this record, and he's just not coming. He's just not coming out of the temple. He's changed his life around. He's a Buddhist monk now, and that's the path his life is on. Okay, so Purcell's like, I'll just do the bass. So he goes up to Normandy. They start doing it, and then Tom Soares, the engineer, he's like, they start doing bass lines, and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, you're playing the bass like a guitar player. He's like, I'm shutting this whole thing down. You come back with a bass player, you're wasting our money. And he fucking shuts everything down.
Wow.
Till we bring a fucking bass player. Because Purcell's fucking playing the bass like a guitar. And so they tell me, and I'm just like, oh, this guy's like way over my head, you know.
Yeah,
I'm a fucking put a microphone in the room, shut off the lights, and let me scream.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, this is gonna suck. So I don't even go to any session while they record the fucking tracks because I'm just all vibed out. Like this is like too big time for me. And I guess they told Tom that I was like had short fuse, and but you should watch what you say to him. You know, not telling him like, yo, he's fucking shy and introverted and he wants to shut off the lights. They were building me up. So when I got there, Tom was like super nice to me. He's like, wow, that was a really good take. But you
got all of a sudden he had manners.
So we put that shit together and it fucking worked out great. And I was happy. You know.
And you remember how many days you were in there? You were in there 1 day to do that, 2 days?
To do the vocals? I think I was there a couple days.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I know it wasn't like the Chung King where they just pressed record and told me to sing all the songs like all fucking night long.
Yeah.
In order. So by the time you get to the end of that record, you can hear my voice go, yeah. Like I had nothing left.
Because I've seen that. I guess those recordings go for some good money, huh? Right? Because I seen that I always used to hear the Chung King recordings, you know, and it's like became a thing, like live at the Budokan, the Chung King recordings, and I was like, you know, so that's what it was because you did this record and they got.
Oh yeah, it's fucking awful.
Yeah,
I remember Youth of Today had just gone to Europe, and Al Brown called me because I was back in Jersey, and he's like, dude, I got a copy of the Chung King record mix. You want to come hear it? So I went in to hear it, went to the apartment, he played it, and dude, I was fucking crushed. It just sounded so bad.
What was it though? Like what? Because I never heard any of those.
The drum.
It just was dry, not ballsy.
The drum sounded like cardboard boxes. Nothing had any life to it. My vocals were like shit and getting shittier as the night went on because we did it all in one night at like 2 a.m. because we couldn't afford that studio.
Yeah. I heard you had to do like crazy hours, right? To make it happen.
Our
right?
fucking the engineer was like an apprentice during the day, so they gave him to us at night, and he was like fucking. I don't know if he was smoking crack or what. I do remember at one point he disappeared. We were like looking for him, and he's in the carpet, like looking in the carpet for rocks drops and shit. I'm like, oh my God.
You're like having a flashback. You're like, I've seen that before. I know what you were looking for. You ain't looking for fucking extra tape, fucking 4-inch or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
and fucking
it honestly sucked. And we told Jordan. Jordan was like, Jordan had already paid for it. So he's like, I could try and come up with some money to re-record it. And then Purcell came up with the rest.
Yeah.
And then Jordan was like, do you mind if I just make like 100 or so copies and sell them, try to get some money back?
Gotcha. And
that was called The Chung King Can Suck It. And it was just supposed to be
I never even heard that. Now I like it even more. That's even better. Chung King.
So the record was called Chung King Can Suck It. Produced and engineered by He Who Can Suck It. And all this shit. And years later, I see it sell on Discogs for like $6,000.
Yeah, ridiculous. Like, now let me ask you: do you have any stored around there somewhere buried in the mountains?
I had 2 that I gave away. One to that kid I told you about who got made fun of at Fugazi. The other one I don't know who I gave it to.
Oh man!
And then years later, I didn't have any, but years later, I got into a little trouble, and Revelation sold one to help me out.
Oh no, that's dope. That's why it's good to sit on those. It's like a bond. You have
that Revelation vault, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Crack that shit. Revelation got a nice one. Let me ask you this: who came up with the hammers?
That was me, because my favorite band, especially at that time, were the Cockney Rejects.
All right.
And so that Cockney Rejects were at the Power and the Glory. Was like a torch with those hammers.
Got you.
And so we just took the torch away and the banners and just stuck with the hammers.
Yeah.
So it's their hammers, like that. When we played with Madball in whatever country, I don't even remember.
Yeah, we were in Europe somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, Cockney Rejects were playing. It was the first time I got to see him, so it was like. I came up with it. I was like, hey, man, I stole your hammers like 30 years ago.
Yeah. Because kind of like the West Ham hammers and shit. Yeah, no fucking.
Those dudes are great. They're like,
I forgot they played that day. I forgot that day.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, that was crazy. And fucking, I remember and Judge before and now doing these shows that you did later on from the first, like, all right, you record the record and before you guys, whatever you want to call it, went back to the mountains and hiatus or whatever. How many shows you think you did before you disappeared again? Before this comeback or whatever you want to call it, this resurgence?
We did like we did a bunch of like West Coast and East Coast shit, and then one full tour for Bringing It Down.
Okay, so you did like, let's say you did a couple of months of touring in total, but that's still nothing for what you guys ended up like, leaving your stamp on.
I mean, I wish I could have fucking stuck it out, but there was like so much pressure at home because it was just getting harder because my whole life was get a job until it's time to go on tour, lose the job, go on tour, come home, try and get another job. It was just harder and harder to find places to live and shit.
Yeah.
And then that Break Down the Walls tour was like kind of fucking hard.
Shit broke you down.
Oh yeah. There's like so much shit going on.
Yeah, I hear
like
you.
Fucking, I mean, it started off great, like going out to California, up north and shit, and then we get out to California where it's the first sign of like, fucking this Nazi wanting to stab me and shit.
Yeah.
But there were all these people there. All my friends were there. Like I had all these friends who was like stationed down at, at the Marine barracks and shit. So they come up. So I was surrounded by like fucking crazy amount of people. So it didn't affect me too much. Then going down back home, it was getting worse and worse. And then we get, You know, we get pulled over by cops in fucking Tennessee. Who's cops just like spitting on me and shit, spitting tobacco on me. You know,
he's had enough. Enough.
Yeah, and then we get out to Tampa, and then all these fucking skinheads want to kill me again. I was just like,
yeah, I know you're like,
fuck, man.
Yeah, what the fuck's going on? I hate
you. You know, like everybody thinks like Judge is like this fucking powerhouse unit. I mean, it was me, our roadie. Sammy was like fucking 14, 15 years old.
And like 10 pounds.
And Matt was 14, 15 years old.
Yeah, like, exactly. I know you mean. I know.
Purcell's like got his shirt off getting a suntan somewhere.
Yeah, I know you mean. Like, I know you mean. Yeah. So basically, you.
Yeah, it was just me and my friend Todd.
What you needed is like the kids now. Now you got these straight edge warrior. Now they're all like MMA fighters. Right now, you would have been fucking chilling. Forget it. And then fucking no, it was crazy. And then you have now let me ask you, the Black and Blue, was that your first show back-ish, or was there something before that somewhere?
No, that Black and Blue show was the first show.
That was the first one back, because that's how I remembered it, because I was like, because I would have known. Because I want to say, I saw you guys did a Super Bowl back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was there. I remember that was probably the last time I saw you guys. Was that I saw
the first Super Bowl? I'm not even sure.
Maybe it was either one or two, but I remember because I was like, wait, I remember seeing you with a bunch of bands like that. And I know that you played a handful of times, and I would have caught it. You know what I mean? Because I remember that record went around all the fellas hard, so we would have went. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, that Black and Blue show was fucking.
Oh, forget it. I was gonna say, not like that. So there's for me, there's two highlights in all the Black and Blues. And the highlights were mainly not just because, or saying my favorite bands, but where I was like, it lived up to the hype. Like Gorilla Biscuits was great. Don't get me wrong. Went nuts, all that. But I put it with you guys and Burn because you guys it was sick how much you sounded like the album. Because I wanted to nitpick, not to hate, just because I'm a sound guy, not a sound guy, but I'm always like, let's see what they can do. Oh, they're going to have to come off. Yo, to pull that shit off, you got to be tight. You know, I'm all about being tight and being a machine. And I was like, these motherfuckers, not only is it tight, it sounds like the album, the tones, not just the playing, your sound guy, the playing, the tones, everything about it. I was like, you motherfuckers murdered it that night. And I don't go by just the crowd going off because that's bullshit to me. Because any new band that's popping, you put them in front of that, people are going to go nuts. That don't mean shit. Now, I want to see, all right, they're going nuts. Now, I'm listening, I'm watching, and I was like, fuck, man, you guys sounded ridiculous. How much rehearsing you guys did before that? That's what I want to know. If
we rehearsed a lot.
It was.
I remember at one point, we had a different bass player. And I remember Cuz, he called me up. He's like, hey, can I stop in at a rehearsal and check you guys out? And I think we kind of already knew that this bass player wasn't working out and shit. And then Cuz came to watch it, and then he was just like, you know, this is a big deal, dude. I don't know if you're fucking. So that's where. And then Matt, the original bass player, was like, I would like to do it. I didn't think he would like to do it. It was my bad that I didn't even ask him. But I just thought, where he's at in life, he wouldn't want to do it. And I didn't want to put him on the spot.
Yeah, like, no, I know.
So when Matt comes back, and see, there's this thing about Matt's bass sound is like the Judge bass sound.
Yeah.
He uses this fucking sand, and that's where the sound comes from. So when he plugged that in and he started doing the bass line, I was like, oh, that's the record.
Yeah. I was like, everything sounded, everything was fucking tight. And now let me ask you this, because you were out of it for a while. And you were on point. Now, when you were rehearsing that, were you going off, you know, trying to go off as much as possible to see, like, because you know, being a singer, now you got to run around, you're playing a big show, it's your first time back, I know you're thinking, yo, we got to come off. Now, like, on the rehearsals, are you, like, trying to go all out to see, like, wow, I got to pull out how long was the set? 40-minute set or something or whatever it was?
I don't even know.
But like, how did you feel going into that? Like, well, obviously you rehearsed a lot, so you felt confident as far as delivery wise, besides the nerves.
I wouldn't say I was confident at all. I mean, we rehearsed and shit, but I still, from when I was a little kid till now, I just don't like being the center of attention.
Yeah.
And when that happens, my mind fucking does shit to me. And so I was like, just please don't let me forget lyrics. Don't let me do this. Don't let me do that. And all these things kept, like, when I was like, the whole deal was when I seen Gorilla Biscuits a year before, and they do New York Crew. Civ comes up, he's like, come out on stage and sing New York Crew for me. Yeah. And I was like, fuck no, it's a fucking, look how many people are out there. I ain't fucking doing that. Yeah. But so they played New York Crew, and I was like, honestly felt like a little bit of jealousy. I was like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
So I go home and I'm just like constantly thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? Let me just fucking see. And I call Cousin Joe, and I'm just like, hey, if Judge got back together, could we play next year's Black and Blue?
Oh, fuck yeah. That's when he busted in his pants right there.
So I didn't think it'd be like headlining or anything. I just wanted to play again, And so as things are going on and shit, and they do the radio show back then and shit, all the shit's going on.
Yeah.
And then it turns out Judge's headline. I'm like, are you sure? Because it would suck if people walked out. And,
tell me about it. Shit.
And then like another show gets added, and I'm just like, maybe there's a lot of pressure here now. I'm starting to feel it,
On our side, we kind of know because people were waiting, but we were like, even when they're like, yo, they coming, we're like, word? Like, because, everybody kind of talks about, every year, who could it be? Everybody throws their 2 cents and like, like, no way that's going to happen. It's like certain things you're like, no, like, yo, they got it. So I wasn't surprised. But when it moved so fast, I guess surprised, but more like, oh, shit. No, I thought so. It feels like I shouldn't be surprised, but I was surprised because I was like, yo, I'm glad because that's what it should be. The same thing with Burn. Like I said, you guys and Burn were my 2 that I were like, fuck, man. They lived up to the hype. Not that the GB didn't, but GB's GB. They've been doing, to me, they've been kind of doing it here and there anyway. I don't know. I feel like I seen Civ always, so yeah, they're always in my radar in a way. So, but with you guys, it wasn't that till then, and it was perfect. And the same thing with the Burn and fucking you went out West Coast when you did that comeback, right?
Yeah.
How was all right? Did Judge go to the West Coast in the past, back in the day?
Yeah.
And did you guys got love out there in the West Coast?
Yeah.
And how was it on the comeback?
Same deal. Just a big place. It was great.
Yeah, that's
good. I mean, nothing will ever come close to that B&B.
Yeah.
Like that B&B show, like nothing will ever touch it. I remember, like, I'd never been to Europe before until we got back together.
Yeah.
And so they're like, our first trip to Europe, they're like telling me, like, I know you get fucked up with big crowds. You're gonna play festivals. This is gonna be fucked up for you. You're gonna be so I'm like inside. I'm just like fuck. And then we get to the festival, and I don't know what it is about those big festivals, but I just didn't. I felt so detached from it all.
It's what it is. It's all
and
everybody.
And so the big crowd, it didn't faze me because I was like, what? A quarter of these people are here to see fucking Judge.
Gotcha. I know you mean.
All these motherfuckers are cheering for No Effects are gonna fucking. They don't give a fuck about us. So
I know you mean. I know you mean. When they're there for you, you like, yo, you don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
So
that B&B show was like.
They're here for you.
Yeah. Like I better not fuck this up.
Yeah.
No, but trust me, I was like, bro. All honesty. And the fucking God, Krishna, whoever. Right before that right when that intro for Judge was playing and those guys walked out and they left me there, I was like, I just walk up these stairs, grab my wife, fucking get back to Jersey.
And do another one, disappear for a bunch of years. They'll never see me again.
Take another 30 years off.
Exactly. Shit. No, I know, I could imagine, like I get like that and we play, and I still get sometimes you're like, you know, when you don't play a while, that feeling, and let alone you have to be a singer, let alone of a band that everybody's already putting up there, and then you want to come off, and you guys were known. It's one thing to be like, all right, name whatever, some old school crazy punk rock band comes back. All right, you going for the craziness. When you see a band like Judge, it's like, imagine seeing Metallica sloppy. No, you know, you're gonna see it gotta be tight. It's more than just the vibe in the room. It's the vibe, it's the sound, it's the look. You know, there's certain bands that it needs that. You know, same thing with Madball. We need those same elements. We need to be tight. Our looks just don't carry us, you know, and our playing has to be tight as fuck so we stick out, and that's our thing, you know, to not, you know, some guys don't have to be tight. They could be wild and they get the message across. You know, it's like whatever. And fucking and since then, I know people must have I approached you, collabs, anything, anybody fucking came at you for any collabs or anything like that? They must have.
No.
Well, we're gonna have to fix that. We're gonna have to fix that. You heard it. If really, I would be right away. I would be like, yo, we gotta get this motherfucker on a track right away. I'm surprised. Yeah, you see that?
I think somebody did, but they were in Europe, and I would have it.
Oh yeah, it was a little great. And what's the well? Now the world is opening up, and I don't even know what's the deal. We were supposed to go to Europe. It got canceled. I don't even know what's the deal. Whatever. What's up with Judge now? What's I know you guys kind of leave it always, and it's smart. You kind of let it just be, and then you can pick up whenever you need to pick up if you choose to, and it's how it should be in a way.
I mean, now I'm up here in Albany. I'm working at Merch now. I fucking really love it here.
Yeah, dope.
And being up here with Steve and Kate, I fucking love those guys. I'd break my neck fucking 4 times for those guys. That's
Shout out to them. And I want you to pass the message, Steve. I'm chased 2 people only, Uta and Steve. I want them on the motherfucking Smokin Word. I'm gonna keep chasing. You tell Steve I'm looking for him. I tell Kate too. But shout out to Steve, Equal Vision, the whole fam up there, Kate and everybody. But yeah, you were saying so you know, I know you've been working. I know they're great, man. You know, like also what they've done. That's why I wanted to get Steve also. You know, like. There's people that talk about it, and there's people that be about it.
Yeah, that's the truth, brother. That's the truth. There's people who fucking post a lot of shit about join me on my spiritual path.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're pretty fucking fake.
Exactly.
And then there's people like these guys who don't do that shit. They just help.
Exactly. And I always knew that from early on, especially with Steve, because people never, even back then, would even associate them and the whole Equal Vision family with all of the Madballs and the Scarheads and the Crown of Thorns. But Steve helped us, Ezek out a lot. He helped us all out. Like, you know, and he don't put it out there. He's so... that's why I want him. I feel like I want motherfuckers to know who the fuck he is, because to me he's important to this whole thing, because people got to learn to see how this thing works, and it ain't just about like this is a motherfucker who don't got to help nobody, and to this day is helping people, because he don't have to just, you know, he don't write a lyric. He doesn't just put a t-shirt on or take a picture pointing his finger saying this is, you know, positive this, positive that. You know, he's been putting it in motion for many years, and I know that. You know?
I mean, the way, like, that, like, Merch now is just like this super huge business, right? And then, like, he'll bend over backwards for, like, hardcore, you know? And like, especially, like, I remember there was, like, a kid who got a job there, and he was, like, and he's young, and we find out he's got, like, judge hammers on both arms, you know? And he's like this straight edge kid, and fucking, it was just like the coolest thing to him that this young straight edge kid is working in. It was funny because, you know, Mike Madball, he comes walking in with the kid because he's got to go tell him this lady something, and as he's walking by, Mike just takes the kid and goes, "Check this kid out." He shows him judge hammers, and I was like, "Are those judge hammers?" And the kid's like, "Yeah, I got 2 of them."
Yeah.
But it's just like,
It's great.
Like a big business, but he still likes the whole like.
Absolutely. And it ain't, and he doesn't do it again because, oh, let me be the guy from the big business who's a hardcore guy, do it because no, he doesn't. And he doesn't, I know he doesn't look like he don't do it for the props. I know he doesn't because I know I see I look at people from behind them so they don't see me looking at them.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Because I look at motherfuckers in their face, but then when they ain't looking, I'm looking. So I know what people do because I'm a people person. I like seeing how people work because I know there's a lot of fake motherfuckers too and all sides. And I always liked how he moved and I liked what he did. And again, especially during some of the toughest times in the world's fucking, in our world, in our lives, period, lives changed. And there was people that it was time to be about it. People that were able to help people and that did it without expecting hey, look what I did. Look what I did. Hey, everybody, I helped these out because you shout me out. None of that shit. And when people are like that, I make it my job to be, nah, fuck that. You better get those props.
Right.
Because
I was the same way, man. For years, I used to fucking be like, look at all these fucking fake prophets, fake guru motherfuckers.
Yeah,
and shit. And then I come up here, man, see how these guys are, and they're the real deal, man.
Exactly. And shout out to
them. And put my faith back in all that shit.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's good. That's what I'm saying. And like, same thing with me. Like, I got, again, that shit gets you like, it gives you gas in your tank. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I see, same thing with me. Look I do my own merch or whatever. I look at him as a mentor, and I don't talk to him about the business, but I know he's a hardcore dude, and I know that guy works 28 hours, 8 days a week. Yeah. I know, because I ask, and I want to know how grinders work because I'm fascinated, because that's what I try to strive for. And I see what he does. He's the only guy who does merch that I root for besides myself. That's it. So shout out to fucking Steve and Kane, all of them. But what's up with Judge? Anything? Are we gonna get anything new ever again? Something new, or besides the collab you do with me when we get that set up? What's gonna be?
We talked about new stuff. We wrote riffs and shit. I don't know. Just didn't.
You guys wasn't feeling it. See,
I mean, I had words, but I don't know.
You wasn't there yet.
Nah.
But is it all right?
I think we would have to be together.
Got you. So it's not, I want to say this, so there's still hope though, right?
I would love it.
All right.
But I can't, like, I don't know. Like, it sounded like metal trying to be metal. Where we never tried to be metal. We just tried to be dirty and heavy.
Hard, yeah.
Gotcha. And I don't know.
Let's see, you think it feels a little too forced at the moment, you think maybe, right?
And also I'm like, I'm a self-admitted, fuck up. I've done many, many things wrong in my life. One of the things I've done right is Judge. And I fucking want to protect that.
There you go.
Judge has given me a lot.
Right? Yeah.
I'm like, where I come from, where I grew up and in the situation I grew up, guys like me don't get to go to Sweden.
Yeah, for sure.
Same
thing. I know.
Shake my ass on fucking stages in fucking Holland and shit. Yeah. And I would never be able to take my wife there without Judge. So it's a special thing to me. I can't fuck that up, brother.
Can't pimp it. Nah, that's great, man. That's good. I'm the same way, and that's how I respect my shit too. Like I respect it like that. Like nah, man. That's like, you wear your inside out with stuff like that. Some people. That's how I am with my band too. Like that's literally you looking at me flipped inside out. So like it's like I hold that shit like from everything, from how every word is played, from how the album is looked, how I really take a lot of fucking that because, again, we representing ourselves. This is us. We showing up, you show your skin with it. So I respect that, but we would like to hear fucking some new music too. Also,
I would too, because I got things to say, but it has to make sense.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Okay, right now, what's in your
Well, you probably have a tape player. I don't know what you got up there in the mountains, what you got in your sonograph or whatever.
What are you listening to lately? The last couple of weeks, like what are you listening to? Anything, whatever it is. What's in your car? What's in your whatever you're listening through?
That's fucked up, bro. that.
Whatever it is right now, the last thing you heard in your car or whatever that you chose to put on besides the radio.
Well, last night I listened to Bob Dylan.
Okay, there you go. So you've been rocking.
Because I heard on the radio where people were dissecting "It's All Over Now, Baby Blue," what that song meant to them. So I listened to that record because I remember.
And let me ask you, what is it about that song that everybody's dissecting? What they're claiming it says?
Well, they're saying it's like a lady fucking coming to terms with dying and shit. Oh. But it reminded me of a line because, you know, if you watch what's going on in Ukraine and shit with everything that's going on, and there's a line in that song where he says, "Yonder stands your orphan with a gun." Mm. Crying like a fire in the sun, and with the imagery I'm seeing, it's just like it just hit me in a weird way.
Yeah. So you're like,
it's a fucking sad world out there, brother.
Oh, it is a crazy world. It's a fucking real sad world. I'm more sad than people. Like, you know, like I'm let down by certain people. I mean, obviously it's fucked up shit, but I'm even let down by certain people that letting the fucking on this shit. I don't get into religion. I got my own beliefs. I don't get into politics or whatever. But I think too many people are letting the forces that be control them, even though they're thinking they're not getting controlled on both sides, on all sides. And that's why I love and I take pride in my podcast and everything I'm doing, because this is the voice, not just me, anybody who's on a podcast or has anything like this, people like Steve, you know, we are still in touch with what's going on with our culture, and we still we you know, nobody tells us what the fuck to say. You know, the minute that happens, I don't do this, and nobody tells me what the fuck to say. Nobody. But that's why it's still we are one of the media. Now it's media, whatever the word you want to use. You know, these are the formats where you're hearing it from the people still, you know, in real time with no bullshit. There ain't no agenda, but spreading the word. My whole shit is this. I say it as a joke, but I say it every time I say it. I swear it gets etched in my skin even deeper. I say, I won't stop this shit till Stigma's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, and it started as a joke, but I really fucking mean that, meaning all those guys, because we could have all these other motherfuckers in there, yet, you know, the Metallicas, and shout out to all those guys or whatever, but those guys were listening to Agnostic Front. Those guys were listening to the Cro-Mags, to fucking Murphy's Law. You know, they you know, they should be how many records the Ramones put out and how many records Agnostic Front put out? That's the fuck I'm saying. I don't know. Keith Richards, I hear you, Keith Richards, but Stigma's fucking out there right now doing 100 albums. He's probably in a backstage act right now, drinking a beer, chasing a girl, and gonna hit stage and fucking wild out for an hour with no masseuse, with no caviar, with no blood transfusion in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are blessed to be seeing who's setting the bar for how far we could take this shit. Because people used to take punk rock hardcore as some little kid shit. Well, guess what? Stigma's fucking how old? How old is Roger? How old is Jimmy? And these motherfuckers just are on tour. I'm home, you're home, and they're on tour, the older guy.
I seen a video last night of fucking Vinny playing guitar on the dance floor with like a circle pit going around. Like,
exactly.
Come on, man.
Exactly.
Come on.
I got goosebumps before Roger just posted Stigma doing karaoke, singing My Way. I almost cried. I'm not even joking. I almost cried, and I even wrote to Roger, said, thank you for reminding me why I do this shit. I see that, and I get fucking,
you know, Stigma guy, the motherfucker.
Yeah. This is my thing about Vinny. Like, I met Vinny when I was really young, right? And so granted, I was like, there was a bunch of us from Jersey who were fucking running wild, you know, because it was like a free-for-all down there.
Yeah.
early 80s. We were oblivious to like how fucking dangerous it was. We thought we were bulletproof. We didn't care. And so I remember like it would get too late and shit. I'd crash at Apartment X, was this apartment on Norfolk Street. You know, I think John Watson may have had. I don't know whose apartment it was, but I remember one night everybody's crashing out and everybody's smoking dust. You know, it's like the whole fuck. So I'm just like, fucking, this is fucking nuts, right? And so Roger's got his van outside, so he tells me to I can hang out in the van, crash in the van. So I crashed in Roger's van. Next fucking morning, which was a school morning, but I was blowing off school, right? Fucking Vinny comes walking up, talk to Roger. I come out of the van. He's like, hey, what's the kid doing here? He's like, oh, he slept in the van because people were partying. And Vinny goes, he slept in the van on a school night. And I was like, that was the fucking most parenting I've had in my whole motherfucking lifetime, bro. Right then and there. Yeah?
Yep.
Know what else? Another fucking memory of Vinny is Death Before Dishonor playing CBGBs, right? And Vinny fucking loved us. He'd always go off for us and shit. We just start playing. He puts his foot on the stage and jumps up and hits his head on the monitor. You ever see that scar he's got like that?
Yeah, I know that story.
That was like during our first song. We're like, holy shit, we just killed Vinny. His
wow,
fucking head's like split wide open.
That's history right there. That's like fucking like you got like a something carved in Stonehenge. You know, this freaking Stigma's head. My Stigma fucking moment. Dynamo 95, 100,000 people, biggest show to date. We're like, holy shit, you know, we're playing in front of 100 people the night, 200 people the night before. Now we're in front of these fucking thing. We're on stage. You know, my cord doesn't even reach the mic. That's how crazy it is. And I'm standing there and the intro's going on. And Stigma's right next to me. And we're waiting to go on. And Stigma walks up to the front of the stage and everybody, I'm like, holy, I never seen anything like this. Stigma walks right back to me. The intro's playing. And I'm like, got the biggest hard on. I'm like, yo, this is it. Like, yo, this is the ultimate feeling. He looks at me. First, he burps and blows it over his shoulder in typical Stigma fashion. Then he looks at me. Perfect timing. He goes, it's all downhill from here, kid. Did you hear? We don't fake it. We just take it. And I'm like, and we start the song, but I went, like he just ruined my moment and made it so classic at the same time. And I'm like,
I've watched that Dynamo video like fucking 8 million times.
Oh man, that's a nightmare for me that day. If I could redo any day in my life, is that day. It's classic for the wildness, but everything that could go wrong. You know what they should do in college? Have a course on what not to do at a festival and show that set. Be like, this is what could happen. You're gonna fall off the stage. You're miking. Your cord ain't gonna reach the mic stand. Stigma's gonna say some wild shit. Well, anyway, whatever. But yeah, but shout out to Stigma and shout out to everybody. Good, yo, Mike. I'm glad I was able to finally get you on. I've been wanting to get you on for a while, but I was waiting to, so you fizzled out so I could get you fresh back.
See, I knew that, bro. I knew. You can ask fucking Kate.
Oh yeah,
because Kate did a fucking podcast, right?
Yeah,
just last week or some shit, and it was about coffee or something, and she was like. She told these guys, like, Mike Judge is really into coffee. He's all like fucking crazy about how he makes coffee. You should do it. So they hit me up out of the blue. So I don't know. They hit me up out of the blue. Yeah, we're a hardcore and coffee podcast. So I see Kate the next day at Merch Now. And she's like, and I'm like, so what's that podcast about? They asked me. She's like, you should do it. And I go, truthfully, Kate, I feel like every podcast I do is one step further away from fucking Hoya's podcast. So I can't fucking say nothing. She's like, all right, I'm going to hook that up. I was like, Kate, don't you say nothing. Promise me you're not going to say it. And then the next day, you fucking message me.
Listen, I've been wanting to get you a while ago, but what happened was, everybody, you're doing your thing, so it's coming. So I try to, same thing with like certain people, they come on too much. And, we're very like, if it's us, Post America, shout out to all the fam, Joe, we're all very tight knit circle, so it kind of makes his rounds, and it's like kind of I let things sometimes things get too saturated. One person, I let it die out. But I've been wanting to get you for a minute. Kate knows. I've been telling I'm gonna get him, and even Mikey. I was like, and then they're like, yeah, he'll do it. He's there, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get him. And I was like, let me try to get him now, because, by the way, you're my first guest on my new platform. As you see, we stepped up I stepped up the whole set and everything. So I'm glad you were able to pop the cherry on the new set, Mike.
This is like professional looking.
I'm trying to, again, our world needs the platform that the metal guys have, even the punk rockers guys have, because, a lot of them are based out of the West Coast, and they just had, not on some hate shit, but they had more access to more tools to be able to do things on a bigger level. But there's no machine behind me, but we want to do shit New York style, where DIY, but I call it fly DIY because we take pride in how we do it. We can make it look like the big boys. We take pride in it, and it's done by us. Our people have, the set is done by family. Our logos by fam. We got great, gifted people in our world. Artists that, why go anywhere else? So I'm like, so I'm glad. Shout out to everybody who's been supporting the Smokin Word to be able to make all this happen. My Patreon family, Mike, I'm glad I was able to catch you. Anything you want to let the people know before we get out of here?
I'm good, bro.
Listen, Judge, be about it. Go get that shit. Fuck the Chunk King metal fucking sessions or whatever. But look out for the collab. I'm gonna work on something. And Mike, you heard it here first. You're gonna get a call, the random bat signal. You're gonna know we're gonna need some vocals. All right.
I'll be here.
But yo, one love. I'm glad you were able to do it, brother. I'll let you know when this drops.
Okay, man.
All right, man. Yo, we out.